We made it.
We're here.
We made it.
We started this podcast the week before the NFC Championship and AFC Championship.
We've made it out of the worst time of year, which is 3/4 of the year. So
Yeah. Here's our little bit of fun.
I will say Roger Goodell is closer and he's made it really a third now, and it's pushing towards half the year will be football season at some point.
I know.
But it feels
it'll be bumping up to March Madness one of these days.
It felt so good to have it back, and the one thing that I don't want to sound like a hater, because I like the sport in general, and I watch it, but man, like come Monday with college football, I was just like, hurry up and get to Thursday. Like,
oh, I know.
The games this weekend for college football, they stunk. Like outside of like maybe two of them, like LSU USC was awesome. I'll give you that.
Very good game.
That was a great game.
That there wasn't any afternoon games on Sunday.
Yeah, no afternoon games on Sunday, which is like, what are we doing here? There's nothing else on television. People are grilling out. Like Louisville versus Kentucky used to be that week 1 game.
Yes.
And they played on Sunday. I always thought that was really cool, but they kind of just stopped doing that for whatever reason. And I think with but even last year, I remember like Oregon State played a game on Sunday afternoon. Like I think Rutgers and Northwestern, like not good games, but they had
something to keep your interest.
And they didn't have that this year. And I also thought that just the matchups in general in college football were like pretty lackluster. Like Clemson, Georgia, like 2 big names, but like programs going in opposite directions. We kind of knew what was going to happen there.
Yeah.
A&M, like they probably weren't going to beat Notre Dame. Like if you, in hindsight, like, yeah, they got to play College Station, but it's like, it's Elko's first game and Notre Dame's a national title contender. So
yeah,
how much can you really expect?
Notre Dame's only tough game of the schedule until December.
That was the marquee game of Saturday. And really the only great game I thought was USC LSU. It was so towards the end of the week, and I'm sitting there like, man, give me the Thursday. Give me the Thursday. Any big takeaways from the college football opener before we go straight into the NFL?
No, not really. That was a pretty bland week.
And I hate saying that.
Florida State was deservedly left out of the college football playoff last year.
They have not won a game since they have been left out, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I feel for them because, like, I think Florida State deserved to go to the playoff. But
technicality, yes.
Well, I mean, I think the word deserve, and like, we can debate this all day long, but like, to me, like, if you win all your games and you win your conference, you should have the chance to play for national title. And they didn't get that chance, and I still think that was a mistake. But they have done everything possible to prove their naysayers right. Ever since that happened. Like, they got blown out in the Orange Bowl. They got beat by Georgia Tech, which is not great. And then
I think they would have gotten blown out by Michigan too had they played, but yeah.
They made Bill O'Brien look like Sean McVay out there. Like,
did you see the pit stains on Bill O'Brien?
I mean, it's Tallahassee in August, dude. Like, well, I guess it was September at that point, but
it started from here and it ended at the sleeve.
Freaking insane. But yeah. But Bill O'Brien, a guy that was in the NFL last year, no longer in the NFL, he's in college football. And that's what we're here to talk about. Not college football, but the NFL. It's week 1. We have an opening game. I think when you look at the games, Thursday night of the opening of the NFL season, outside of the 100th anniversary year, it's always one of the marquee matchups of the entire year. I think last year's game was a little weird because like Detroit hadn't really proven anything at that point, and they got picked for that game, but they ended up having a great season and kind of proving the projections right. But I think like with this team or this game in particular, I think this was like the right choice to have an AFC Championship rematch.
It's usually what you try to shoot for. That I know a lot. It's kind of like you know, boring in the way that like, oh yeah, I guess we know who the opener is going to be. Like, say back in January or whatever, when the opponents come out and the conference championships are over, and you start looking at. I don't know if anybody else does this, but I do it like where whatever team's in the Super Bowl, I look at, oh, who are they playing at home? What would be a good game? Well, oh, look, they're playing the same team they played in the conference championship. So sometimes it's like, yeah, but this is a game I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot of big questions I think to ask about both teams. And what's weird, the way I look at it is like the Ravens, I think are going to be like a completely different offense from what they were last year. I think they're going a lot back to where they were prior. I think they got pass happy in that AFC title game, and I think the signing of Derrick Henry is going to change their approach offensively. And I think a lot of that is designed to get Lamar more healthy and to keep him upright. But the other thing is the Chiefs' offense has completely changed too with so many of their additions. Hollywood Brown's not going to play tomorrow.
Yep.
But the addition of Worthy, like they have more juice, I think, offensively than they've had in years past. What in terms of this game specifically? What are you like looking for? Like what's the key factor? I mean, Kansas City's a field goal favorite, but they're at home, so this is basically like Vegas is saying this is an even game.
Yeah. So one thing that I thought was interesting, and a lot of it is probably coach speak, but Roquan Smith was interviewed the other day after practice, and they asked him, what's the goal? What's the goal for winning? And he said, stop the running game. We got to stop the run, which is interesting because Kansas City has run the ball well with Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah.
However, stopping the run means that you're bringing one of your safeties a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. And that's been the thing that teams have not been doing against Mahomes in recent years. That's the thing that he ate teams up on early on in his career, right? Because when they were going single high safety, he was picking a team's part deep. And then over the last couple of years, when teams, obviously the NFL scoring has actually come down, which I don't complain about. I don't mind it because defenses deserve a chance to win too. But I think if Baltimore doesn't handle this right, I have a feeling Kansas City might put up a big score.
Really? Yeah. I kind of think that in a lot of ways too. I think the way I look at this game is I think Kansas City is going to get theirs regardless. I think the way I think the big X factor on their offense, I think, is Worthy because they finally have a field stretcher for the first time, I think, since Tyreek Hill left.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go as far as saying Xavier Worthy is even half the player Tyreek Hill is. Like, Tyreek Hill is a first ballot Hall of Famer at this point. But like you said, one thing that I think last year they didn't do and why they like felt stagnant offensively is because they didn't really have a way of making a defense play honest. They got teams, like they weren't stretching the field. They just didn't have any playmakers. Like MVS, Marcus Valdes-Scantling was your field stretcher, right?
Mm-hmm. For the last 2 years, right?
I think on the Kansas, that's true. Yeah, the last 2 years, that was their Tyreek Hill replacement. That's just not going to get it done. And the way I look at this game, when Kansas City has the ball, I think Pacheco has a good game, but I think Kelsey's actually going to be the one that feasts tomorrow for the Ravens, and he shows up in big games typically when they're playing good teams. That's usually where Kelsey has success, especially in the last couple of years later into his career. I think he'll have a big night. And I think Worthy is going to make a big difference, even if it's not necessarily on the stat sheet. I think that's where it's going to be. But Baltimore's got good personnel pretty much all over their defense. So it's, this will be one of Kansas City's toughest matchups offensively. But I think where the game gets decided, I think this to me are two immovable objects playing against each other. And I'm so fascinated to see the Chiefs rush defense against the Ravens rushing offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because this by far is Derrick Henry's best offensive line he's ever played for, best quarterback he's ever played with. Lamar Jackson at the same time has never really had a rushing attack that has complemented him so well that's going to take pressure off of him. So there's going to be a lot of, play action looks now that he's never had before. I think you're going to see him play a little bit more under center now, back to where he was with Greg Roman. I actually he was the MVP last year, but I think Lamar Jackson actually left a lot of I think he left a lot on the table last year, actually.
Some meat on the bone.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he'll probably win MVP again because it was a down year for quarterbacks in general last year, which I think is the reason he won MVP, because really no one else had a strong season outside of Brock Purdy, arguably, or maybe Josh Allen. But I think it's going to come down to that Ravens rush attack in this Kansas City defense in general has just been so consistently excellent over the last, I would say, 3 seasons at this point with Steve Spagnuolo. I think that's where the game gets decided. But I'm kind of with you. I think Kansas City's going to put up points, and I think they're going to put up enough where I think they win. If I'm picking against the spread, I think they probably win by 6. 4 to 6 points is where I feel like I'm not going to quite give them a touchdown, but I would think they win. They score about 28 points.
I was thinking 28-24 final.
Yeah. And the thing is, in the NFL, and where people need to not pretend like they know everything that they're talking about when predicting games, a fumble or an interception that's fluky decides everything.
It changed the week 1 game last year. The pick 6 that went off Kadarius Toney's hands.
And I think the X factors in the game are Worthy and Henry, because they're really the parts that we don't know, right? We haven't seen them with these offenses yet. But I feel like the rest of these rosters are pretty much the same or close to the same as what they were in January. But those are 2 huge additions that are, I think, going to completely revitalize, reshape the way they play offensively. But I'm going to take Kansas City by 4, and I think you're thinking the same thing. So you good on that? Any other thoughts on Ravens and Chiefs?
None.
Yep. So Friday night, our first Friday night game in the history, I guess. It's not our first Friday game because we've had a couple of Friday games.
Yes, speckled
but
in.
We have had we've had a lot. We've never had a Friday night opener game, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Green Bay.
I was just thinking, just to cut. Do you remember? Was it 2012? They had to play the opener on Wednesday.
Yeah, because Obama was going to speak at the Democratic National Convention.
That's right. Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah. I was trying to figure out the reason for that, but yeah, go on. Yeah, sorry. I was like, man, I love football on tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I remember when that happened, because a lot of people were like, they're rescheduling the opening for. I'm like, I'm staying out of that subject. I'll just tell you right now, because you're going to piss somebody off.
Yeah.
If you give your opinion on that side, but. Green Bay and Philly, they're playing Friday night in Brazil. That's
not in Philly.
Yeah, not in Philly, not in Wisconsin. It's in Brazil, Sao Paulo. And this is, outside of I think the first thing is, I think with international games, they're kind of weird because your typical week is just completely thrown out. Both of these teams had basically an extra travel day. So we get a neutral site game. It's a 9-hour flight, but you're going south. So you're not really losing any time, but it's just a long trip that takes an entire day off of your practice schedule. You're playing in a foreign country you've never been to before. I think there's a lot of factors that just like playing in England or Germany, that I think with international games are always weird. I think you can factor into that. Maybe you get a little sloppy play here and there, and I think that's kind of a common factor with the Great Britain games. I always feel like they're pretty sloppy compared to the other regular domestic games we get. To me, I'll give you my thought on this game. Green Bay wins this game if they cannot let Saquon Barkley run wild. I think they have shaped their defense to the point where I think their secondary is going to be a lot better this year. That's Hafley's background as defensive coordinator. I think they're going to be able to put up points in the pass game. I'm not convinced Philly's secondary is all that great. I know they drafted a couple of rookies, but I'm not buying into the fact that they're just going to come in overnight and just click.
Yeah.
And be a great defense. I think LaFleur is going to have answers offensively, but the question is, if Saquon Barkley takes over this game, I think Philly could run wild in this. And I, as a Packer fan, I am a little concerned that that's very possible because, I mean, this is by far, just with Derrick Henry, it's kind of the same argument. It's like Saquon has never been in an efficient offense with a good offensive line before, and he's such a mega talent, and then he's going to a situation that he's ripe to go crazy. And this is the defense I think that he could go crazy against, because I have a lot of questions about Green Bay's ability to stop the run. But I think that's the X factor. What do you see with this matchup?
Well, in talking even about Philly's offensive line, it's going to be really interesting this year to see. I mean, they lost their biggest piece last year in Jason Kelce.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're still going to be very good. They still have Lane Johnson and other guys that I'm blanking on. So they're still going to be a good, very good offensive line. I don't know if they'll ever be as dominant again. Well, unless they're ever able to replace Jason Kelce. So,
Probably
but that might be all Barkley needs at the same time, because he played behind the worst offensive line in football for the last number of years. And coming in with a new front for Green Bay, there's going to be some hiccups. I'm kind of like you. I think it's going to be a sloppy game in some ways. There's going to be some turnovers. There could be some defensive touchdowns for all we know. And something that has hurt Green Bay in the past is their special teams. And a game that's sloppy, a lot of times you think about, is there a special teams play that's going to flip the game? Is there a big punt return? Is there a punt block, a missed field goal? Those sorts of things.
Yeah. I think I agree with you, especially like what has concerned me before, like with the Packers when they lose games. I think a lot of it is Jordan Love gets sloppy with the ball. He cannot have a multi-turnover game, especially giving Philly short fields. I think Jalen Hurts historically has been extra efficient with short fields. I think you have to kind of make them go the distance and execute. I think so. Yeah, I agree with you. But I think on the Packers side of the ball, I think Jordan Love taking care of the ball, and on defense, they have to. They're not going to stop Barkley, but just not letting him go for like 180. I think it's going to be I'm going to eat crow for this now that I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Jalen Hurts does not scare me as a thrower, I guess. Is like, I think he could run wild on us, but if you look at the second half of last year, pretty ordinary. I'm not convinced that the Shane Steichen efficiency is going to just be back automatically. Mm-hmm. Maybe Saquon like kind of covers up some things, but I think Swift was fine in the pass game. I don't think that was the issue.
Yeah, that was what was missing.
I think Barkley brings more value in their run game. To me, like if I'm Philly and I'm looking at this game, like if Jalen Hurts has over 25 attempts, we're going to lose. I think this is the type game. I want Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 19, 20 times. And I know this goes against everything we talk about with like all the analytics people. But like in this situation against this team, if I'm Philly, I'm running wild on these guys. I know I can. Like Green Bay is like a Swiss cheese rush defense. But if you try to throw it against them, their pass rush is pretty good. They have a lot of talent in the secondary, and their linebackers are really more built to cover than they are to stop the run. I think that's where you go after them. And then the last thing I'll say that I think Philly has a huge edge in, and this is so frustrating to say because I feel like this has been a talking point for like the last 10 years in Green Bay, but special teams. Like, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
And in a game like this where it could be close, I think maybe a missed field goal or a bad punt, I think makes all the difference. So with that, I'm going to go Philly in a close game. I think like you said, I think it's going to be a little sloppy. I'm going to go 24-17. I think Philly takes it by a touchdown in this game.
I think it'll be a little bit higher scoring. I'm going to go with Green Bay edging it out.
Of course you are.
Well, yes, but if they're the team that I am picking to win the NFC Championship this year, this is kind of like a how tough are you game? Like it's not easy traveling, as you said, 9 hours down, neutral site, first game of the year, playing on a Friday night, like all those kind of wonky things. A great team should come out and they should win this game. Yeah. I know they're playing a good team. Philly's not a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a good team. It's a great first test. I think Green Bay's going to win maybe like 30-27. I think they might get a turnover late.
Yeah. The one thing that's interesting about the Packers is when they're not opening up against Chicago in week 1, they're not very good. When they play the Bears, like Matt LaFleur's first season, they won. They basically shut them out defensively or only gave up 3. And then last year. But the Bears, as we've talked about, not exactly a great measurement for how good you are. That's my one thing too. Like Green Bay under Matt LaFleur, like outside of those 2 games, like they have a tendency to they just lay eggs. Like Minnesota in 2022, the Jameis Winston game, like
oh god, yeah.
That worries me a little. Like, do they just show up flat?
And that was a neutral site game too.
It was. But Rodgers was the quarterback in both of those situations. Like maybe there's a little more team chemistry, but I don't know. Like, I think we're such new territory with Love as the quarterback. We've never really seen. This is the first clean off season we really had, and it wasn't even 100% clean because he did hold in for like a week.
Yeah,
at the start of training camp. So, I think I still think Philly is good enough. Now, I think Philly is a completely flawed team. I don't buy into them as a Super Bowl contender, honestly. But I think they're going to be a type team. I think they show really well in September, and then they get exposed later in the season. But I'm taking Philly here by a touchdown. Any other thoughts on this game?
None.
Okay. Next, we got we'll go a little quicker with some of these. Arizona and Buffalo. I'm higher on Arizona. Oh, ESPN's been doing this. Like, I don't know. Like Spectrum just ads pop up. But
yeah, no, Pat McAfee show is going to be knocking on our door tomorrow for the free advertising.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of viewers that yeah. But anyway, Cardinals, Bills, kind of an interesting like interconference game here. I'll give my quick thoughts on this and I'll keep it brief. I think Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. They kind of outplayed expectations, especially early in the year with Jonathan Gannon, with a roster that really wasn't competitive. I think the Bills are in a lot of a transition period. I think they're going to struggle a little bit offensively. The line is a touchdown. I'm going to take Buffalo here, but I'm only going to give them a field goal. I think Arizona has a great chance to win this game. I think this might be like Arizona putting teams on notice. And Buffalo's also one of these teams that they aren't always that great to open the season. I remember like this feels a lot like when they lose to Pittsburgh week 1. Like they're better than the Cardinals and they should win this game. but I think like the Bills are transitioning a little bit on offense and defense. And I think maybe the Cardinals could maybe get them. I'm not going to pick the Cardinals outright, but I think the Cardinals definitely cover that 7.
Yeah, I actually do think that I was surprised when I saw 7 myself. I think it's going to be, I'm thinking 24-20 Bills. Like,
Yep.
They'll win, but Arizona to cover. And we're not a betting podcast, of course, but it's good for reference, anyways,
Yes.
to see what the public thinks. I am excited to see this Arizona offense.
Mm-hmm.
See Marvin Harrison Jr. Not a lot of help behind him. I was just looking at their depth chart today.
Greg Dortch, dude.
Greg Dortch.
Yeah, Michael Wilson's okay.
Have you heard of Dortch on a porch?
Yeah, I do think. Yeah, we got Dr. Seuss in this house too. But I agree with you in the sense that like Arizona definitely doesn't have like the sexiest list of offensive weapons, but you have to include Trey McBride in that conversation.
Yeah, I drafted him both fantasy teams I have because I have Kyler on both fantasy teams.
I also think Kyler is a very underrated quarterback. Now, am I going to sit here and say he's a top 5 guy? Absolutely not. Like I said, we don't want to focus on line here because we're not a betting podcast, but I do look at lines in terms of like what the public thinks about a team. And to me, I think the perception around NFL Twitter or just NFL fans in general is that Buffalo is like by far and away much better than the Cardinals. I look at this game as in my opinion, either Buffalo is just overrated or Arizona's underrated. I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
Now Buffalo to me, like is they're the anti-Philly. I think this team over the course of the season will get a lot better. I love their coach. I think McDermott's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'm going to watch in this game is I'm going to watch Buffalo's front and how they play because that's where a lot of my questions were. Von Miller just was awful last year.
Absent.
Yeah, he looked done. And then on their back end and their secondary, how do they hold up? If Arizona can get some explosive plays, and they have Harrison, but I think some other guys like Dortch and Michael Wilson are pretty underrated. And then the Kyler making plays. That's what I'm going to be watching is when Arizona has the ball. I think Josh Allen's going to get his against this team, but as we know with Josh Allen, problem there is if he's forced to play in a high-scoring game, like is he prone to make a couple of mistakes and then the kind of snowballs and then Buffalo ends up losing the game. But I think, like I said, I'm gonna probably take this as a higher scoring game. I don't really love either defense. I'm gonna take the Bills to win by a field goal, 31-28.
It'll be exciting. It's one of the games that I'll be flipping back and forth on. So.
Yeah. Interesting that I like when they do the interconference games early in the year. I would much rather have division and big conference games later in the season.
Towards the end of the season. Kind of
I hate division games in week 1 because I think it's just like they're too big to me to have. They're too important to have the first game. Next game we've got are the Patriots and Bengals.
Oof.
Yeah, I'll keep this. I'll keep this short. If I guess Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback.
Yes.
In this game.
How long?
Yep. I think he's gonna. I think they're protecting Drake May. I think this offensive line is going to be a huge issue the entire season. I do not. I think if they put Drake May in right now, it's setting him up for failure. He is not ready to play with this team. Like this team is not there yet. I think Cincinnati.
And Gerard Mayo said as much after the preseason. Like May was definitely more impressive, but like he didn't say our offensive line sucks. He didn't say our weapons are bad. He basically just said like we need somebody to take a beating early on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's got to be Jacoby Brissett.
Yep. I agree. I think this game. I don't really buy into Cincinnati being all that awesome. I don't think they're bad by any means. I think they could easily make the playoffs.
They're gonna be hooting and hollering after this one.
I think,
Hooting.
I think Joe Burrow is really good too. I think he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. I think this is a case of a pretty good team playing a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cincinnati Bengals, I got winning this by. I'm going to take 2 touchdowns. I think they cover that 9, and I'm not. I think like I don't see this as a very high scoring game. I see it like 24-10, and I actually disagree with you. I think Bengals fans will watch this and be kind of frustrated because I think New England.
They only score 24 points, and especially like
Patriots defense is still good.
Well, they lost Christian Barmore, and they don't have Matthew Judon anymore. That's
but
the 2 best players probably on that defense.
I think that's the one. I think that's the one thing that translates a little bit under Gerard Mayo. What I'm interested to see with Mayo is like the vibes that I get from him. He screams like a one and done coach.
Yeah, it's weird. I was thinking like kind of, how like Antonio Pierce took the Raiders, by storm towards the end. And I don't even think Antonio Pierce is going to be a great coach.
But I think he'll be like Mike Singletary.
Yes.
Yeah.
The energy that the Raiders played with, at least towards the end of the season, like you would think like, people would be talking about the Patriots in that same light. Like, hey, they're not going to be good, but they're going to be playing with great energy. I haven't got that vibe at all from them.
I'm starting to think this team's going to be the worst team in the league. They're the heavy favorite right now.
I have the Bengals winning 27-13. I think it'll be a comfortable victory.
Yeah, we're both close, and we both take the under.
We've been really neck and neck with most of like in terms of our score differences.
Yeah, because I think I see this game, Cincinnati. It's gonna be one of those where Cincinnati fans like get frustrated because they feel like they should win by more, but like I think the Bengals, especially with Chase not practicing most of training camp, I think that's gonna be like they're gonna be a little disconnected, and I think the Patriots defense is respectable. It's week 1 too, but I like you said, I think this game after the first quarter, I think it feels like Cincinnati stays in control the entire game. 2 scores. Next game up, we have Sam Darnold against Daniel Jones. We've all been looking forward to this.
The only people that'll watch this game, truthfully, I don't even know how many Vikings and Giants fans will want to watch this game.
Who's calling this game?
That's what I just looked up 506 Sports right now, but I'll get you that in a second. But
this would have been the same
heavy bettors probably. There's not even like much fantasy interest in this outside of Jefferson and Neighbors.
This would have been the Tim Ryan Ron Pitts game right back in the day. Like that would have been I've heard a lot of Tim Ryan and Ron Pitts in my life because I saw the Jimmy Clausen Panthers team like every week. It was
actually this would be a great Sam Darnold game. Or not Sam Darnold, Sam Rosen.
That's what I was saying. But Sam Rosen's usually like reserved for like the Cardinals because like they send him to the West. My guess is Sam Rosen's like, I'm gonna go play golf or something like.
I'll wait till the Rangers start. He's retiring this year.
I want to go to Scottsdale and bake in the sun real fast. Like that's the vibe that I got from Sam. Not that I know him or anything, but but this game. It's ugly, but there's things I want to watch in this game. Somebody has to win. I guess not technically, they could tie, but I do think there is a remote possibility that the Vikings show out well in this game offensively. And I think there's even a possibility that the Giants are less awful offensively than we think. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say the Giants will be good offensively, but I think there are a couple of things in their favor that I don't think people factor in enough. I like both play callers in this game. I like Daboll. I like Kevin O'Connell. To me, this is like watching Mike Kafka. This is like watching what's that show, Iron Chef? So you have like Bobby Flay, and then not that he's on this show, but like Gordon Ramsay, right? 2 world-class chefs. but instead of giving them like gourmet ingredients, there's like, here's the most processed crap you have to make a gourmet meal out of this. Like it's that's the kind of game that I'm thinking. This is the Iron Chef Bowl to me, like, because I think Daboll's a great coach. I think he has no talent outside of Neighbors on his entire team.
It's Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma, which is a pretty decent pairing for.
Yeah, they did some good games last year.
Yeah,
but it's a big market. It's New York, so
yeah.
But Kevin O'Connell, I'm a big fan here. So like, part of me is like, does this game have more excitement than anybody's thinking it will? And not to mention, everybody hates the quarterbacks. Obviously, Darnold. We've seen 6 years of him, right? 7 years. And Daniel Jones, it feels like we've had 100 years of him. In terms of, he's still getting his chance with the same team that drafted him. But it's like, we've seen enough, haven't we? But he still has another year. And the thing that I think is like, I think Neighbors and Jefferson, Jordan Addison, there's so much offensive firepower that people aren't accounting for. That's what I'm looking at in this game. And I think both secondaries are horrible. Like, I think this game is going to be high scoring, even though the quarterback play on paper looks awful.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm fascinated by. I think these teams are dead even. I'm going to take the Vikings to win a close game, 33-30.
So I think the Vikings win, but I actually think they're going to win a little bit more comfortably, because I think that the Vikings are going to blitz the ever-living poo out of Daniel Jones, and
it would make sense with Flores.
Yes, it'd make his life miserable. I have the Vikings, and I think Sam Darnold always has like 3 good games in him in the New Jersey before it starts to fall out.
Yeah.
I think he plays well enough. I think the Vikings are going to win 27-17. They're going to win by 10.
I'll say this too. Like, this week feels like Malik Neighbors has a 60-yard touchdown. Like, I feel like that's going to happen.
Like with 4 minutes left to make it 27-6.
No, the funniest thing what will happen is he'll score on the opening drive.
Or could you imagine?
And then the Giants don't score any more points until the fourth quarter. Like that, I could see that.
Did you see Hard Knocks last night when Ryan Poles was talking to Joe Shane?
No, I haven't. I need to go back and watch. I've missed the last couple.
So he was Ryan Poles was at the Georgia Clemson game on Saturday, and Joe Shane came up to him and he goes, "Well, you must be happy you don't have to scout any quarterbacks anymore," which was Joe Shane's way of saying, "All right, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, what do you got?"
About to say, you're at the wrong game if you want quarterbacks. Like, just, yeah, not to go into that, but yeah, I do think, even though we're not big fans of Daniel Jones on this program, I do believe this will be a high scoring game. I'm not a big fan of either defensive unit. I think that's what this game is more about, and the offensive playmakers are really good. I think this will be Malik Neighbors' coming out party this week, in week 1. But so you have I have the Vikings winning and you have the Vikings winning. So have we differed on Green Bay Philly?
Yes.
Next game, your team, the Titans and the Bears. So, and we're back to Spectrum. I don't know why. ESPN's been doing that to me all day. I don't know why. Anyway, is this a trap game for the Bears?
I mean, yeah, it is a trap game. Week 1 is the week that the craziest things happen. Usually that, and like in December.
And when y'all are excited,
yeah, we usually get let down. I mean, I'm already like, there's a good part of my brain that's like, Neil, you've been here before.
I think this game is not about Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams, we know. In my opinion, I think we know he'll produce.
I think there's also a way. a part of me that thinks the Bears might be like, okay, like we know what we have to do to beat Tennessee. I think because next week is a huge game. I mean, it's not a huge game, but it's a big game, we'll say,
Yeah.
when they go to Houston on Sunday Night Football. I think the Bears are going to probably keep some things a little closer to the vest this week.
Yeah.
Like they'll let Caleb air it out. But I don't think they're going to show a lot of things that they want Houston seeing before they go down there for that game. I think
this game has the widest range of outcomes because I do not know what to make of the Titans offensively.
Yeah, you have 3 receivers that are 29 years and older.
Yeah.
That don't create separation against maybe the best secondary, but they're seasoned vets at the same time.
They know how to make contested catches.
Yes.
So Tyler Boyd is a separator, but he's a slot receiver. So I think the Titans really haven't had a great offensive line. I mean, they did draft the kid from Alabama. What's his name?
Latham.
Yeah, J.C. Latham. They've made, I think, some effort into revamping that line. The way I'll say this game, I think the Bears score 24 points. The question, wow, you really do think I think it's more. I could see the Titans scoring 30 points. I could see this Titans scoring 10 points. This is all about what the Bears defense and the Titans offense matches up with.
Yeah.
I would say way more likely that they score 10 points than they score 30 points.
Yeah, I think the Bears defense definitely. I mean, they're gonna get got at some point. It's just the way it works. Like you can't, as the old saying goes, they get paid too.
Yeah.
So they're gonna make plays, but I think Will Levis. I think the Bears are gonna have some really good schemes to get Will Levis making some bad decisions. Their running game. The Bears have a great run defense, and or they did at least last year, and they're bringing just about everybody back.
Yeah.
And the Titans don't have a good running offense, so the Titans will have to throw to beat the Bears. I don't think they're going to have enough success throwing the ball. They will have some. I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Bears, though. I think, like I said, offensively, the Bears will keep some things closer to the vest. And also just for the fact that we're talking about how, a great inter league or inter-conference, I guess you'd say, matchup. The Bears actually don't have a divisional opponent until the middle of November, which is a really weird scheduling quirk. So, I think they're going to play things a little bit more conservatively, probably to the dismay of a lot of Bears fans, because, we're going to want to see Caleb throw the ball.
Yeah. I think, I think if Caleb makes plays, I think it's going to be, he can still make his backyard plays.
Yes. And Caleb does win from the pocket. See, a lot of people think that he is just Justin Fields in that, but he does win from the pocket a lot. But I think the Bears are going to win this 24-17. The Titans have not only like what we talked about, but just in general, they just have a lot of influx. And I know I've been there as a Bears fan before, where you think like, and I know the Bears added new pieces this year, but the mainstays of their team have been here already.
Yeah.
The guys that they added are just extra, and obviously they added Caleb, but a lot of the other guys are just extra pieces. Like Keenan Allen's an extra piece. Dunze's an extra piece.
Yeah.
But I've been where Titans fans have been before, where you get all these new, like you have 6 new starters on defense, you have 4 new starters on offense, and you're like, this is going to be better than last year. But it takes time to gel together. I don't think it's going to happen this week for them. I think, like I said, 24-17 Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to go actually the exact same score. Wow. So, like I said
before we did.
No, but I will say the only, like I talked about the Titans offense against the Bears defense. I think that's kind of the big range of outcomes.
Only 4 number 1 overall picks have ever won their first start.
Matt Ryan wasn't a first overall pick. Let me see if I can name who's the last. Let me see if I can name the last one. Andrew
It's been a
Luck
long
lost
time.
his against the Bears, actually.
Yep.
Did Joe Burrow did not. I remember they missed that
Keep
kick.
going. Keep going back. You are way too close.
I don't know.
A guy whose brother plays in the NFL right now.
David Carr.
David Carr was the last.
Oh, yeah, against the Cowboys. That's right. I remember that game. Wow.
And the year before that,
Michael
it was
Vick?
Michael Vick.
No. Vick played his first.
I guess he did. That's what the graphics said.
Yeah, I thought Vick sat behind Chris Chandler for a
Yeah, I think maybe Chandler was injured that week or something.
Yeah,
but before that, it was Elway. And before that, it was Plunkett.
So not some elite company.
It literally happens once or twice in a generation.
You have elite company and then David Carr. So
who's Caleb gonna be?
Yeah, or he could lose this week and then he's not part of that conversation. Which I would say like 24-17 with a caveat that I think it could be worse because it could be a disaster for Will Levis. Or Will Levis comes out and surprises us and their offensive talent shows out and the Bears give up 30 points. Like, that's the way I'm looking at it. And I'm kind of capping the Bears offense right now at 24 points. I think it could be better by the end of the season. The Bears are going to be a team that's probably better in November than they are in September. But a very favorable matchup for a team with a rookie quarterback.
Yes.
To open the season. Next game on the slate is Carolina and the Saints.
Oh my God, some really bad week noon games.
Yeah, so
I don't have much to say about this game, to be honest.
I think this game's fascinating. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I really am.
I know you do. I
really am because this entire offseason, everybody has taken a big crap on Bryce Young for his rookie season. And rightfully so.
We're still hoping they lose the Panthers.
And he was really, really bad. I give you that. But I also think that the situation around him couldn't have really been any worse than it was under, I think, a coach that had completely lost like any passion. Like the way I look at like Frank Reich, he looked lost when he was coaching last year. They had no plan offensively. The franchise was in disarray. I still think the franchise is a little in disarray because I don't believe in Tepper as an owner. But I do like Canales as an offensive guy. And I like Bryce Young as a talent coming out of college. That being said, this is not a good matchup to go into. The Saints, this is the time of year that they believe that they are a Super Bowl contender.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, but they believe. They're the most delusionally run franchise in the league. Like they're still buying in that they could win the NFC South. And that's, by the way, that's what we strive for, to win.
Any year could be 2009 to them.
No. They did kind of come out of nowhere, to be fair, but like Drew Brees was your quarterback, not Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Like,
and Sean Payton was your head coach.
Yeah. So I want to say this game, to me, don't care about the Saints. We know what the Saints are. They'll probably win this game, by the way. Don't even care because they still have a lot more talent than the Panthers do. What I am going to watch for, I am solely watching to see how Bryce Young plays. I don't even care if they win. It's more about, does he look like he's made a step? Does he look like he's making progress? So this is like an eye test game for me. I will be watching this game pretty closely to see how he plays. If he's still doing kind of the same stuff that he did last year where he's not accurate, he doesn't play with any confidence, that's a bad thing. But if he comes out and surprises us and maybe the Panthers win the game and they score a bunch of points, then there's a different conversation and a different, think about if you're a Panthers fan, how reinvigorating. Picture yourself on Sunday afternoon at 4:00. The Panthers are up 28-17 and Bryce Young has 3 touchdown passes and 300 yards passing. Yeah. The Saints defense, which is pretty decent usually, with Dennis Allen. Your whole attitude changes.
Yeah.
To me, This
People
is
are
one of the
coming
most
out next week.
This is the most fascinating to me. This is the most fascinating game of the early window. No offense to you, but like it's
wow.
not because I know that Caleb Williams. I'm pretty confident Caleb Williams is pretty good, and I know the Bears have weapons. To me, like I think a direction of a franchise, I think, takes another trajectory. Like if the Bears lose on Sunday, I don't think Caleb Williams is a bust. That's why I don't think that game, like to me, this game is the most interesting game of the early slate. Because if Bryce Young goes out there and plays like crap, then the conversations start. And then maybe it turns into, I don't know, Shadur Sanders or whatever, like conversation. That gets real really fast if things don't go the right way. And Canales isn't that invested in Young. So we're there's going to be a lot of questions that are answered from this game. That being said, I still think the Saints win, and I still think they win pretty convincingly. I'm going to go 28-17.
Ironic. That was just the score you gave the scenario from. I think it's actually going to be close, but I think it's going to be 20-19, and the Panthers missed the 2-point conversion that would win them the game.
Okay. Yeah, and this will be a game that we break down, and I think when we recap the week, I think this will be one of the games, and we'll make a big determination on the future of the Panthers based off of this one
could be
game.
our settle for 3 game.
Yeah, I think so. This is, to me, it's an underrated game. I think a lot of people want to skip it, but to me, that's one that I'm going to be very interested to see. Along with y'all's game, I think we'll get to Jacksonville, Miami in a second, but like that's a great game. I think an underrated game of the 1 o'clock window. This to me is one of the least interesting games of the 1 o'clock window. And
I'm kind of interested in it just to see how.
I still know what Kirk Cousins is.
Yeah.
I know what he is. I think the Falcons are going to score points. Kirk Cousins has proven that he can throw touchdowns to Pierre Garçon. He can throw touchdowns to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson. Like, Drake London will be great. Kyle Pitts will do a good job. And Bijan Robinson's super talented. The Falcons defense is the question here. If I'm interested in an angle to see how much they have actually improved. The Steelers I'm not interested in watching it all. I kind of know what Russ is at this point. I think he is a 20-32 starting quarterback, somewhere in that list. I think like 25th. I think he's good enough to maybe win this game. It's like it's the Steelers. It's like where they've been the last 3 years. It's just the same Steelers. It's just a different quarterback.
That's 5 years.
Yeah, and to me in this game, I'll let you break it down a little bit more. I think the Steelers actually win this game, though.
Okay.
I think the Steelers win 24-20 because no one's expecting them to win this game. So that's why I think they win. It's because that's how the Steelers operate.
Yeah, that's true. I think the Falcons are going to win this game. I think it's going to be like I already said 30-27. I guess it'll be another 30-27 game.
It's only a 2.5 point spread. So Vegas doesn't seem to think that
the Falcons are that much better. Yeah, and the Falcons are supposed to be an NFC South favorite. I mean, they are not supposed to be. They are the NFC South favorite.
That's not saying that much, though.
It's not saying much.
Yeah.
But no, I guess I'm excited. I'm interested to see. I want to see what Pittsburgh's offensive sets look like. I want to see what are the passing schemes that Russell Wilson is going to be throwing? Is he going to be attacking the middle field like he hasn't? Or is he going to be using George Pickens along the edges? Like George Pickens would love for him to hit him over the middle of the field. But I don't know. I want to see, because I know Justin Fields is going to get snaps. They will play Justin Fields. He's probably going to get 5 to 7 snaps a game, I'd say. Yeah. As long as Wilson is healthy. I want to see how they use him. I also want to see how this Atlanta defense looks. I agree. By DVOA metrics, they were not a good defense last year. A lot of They were horrible. A lot of people will point to their points allowed per game, like, "Oh, we weren't that bad," or
They ran the
yards.
ball. They
Yeah.
they threw the ball 17 times a game last year. They ran the
Yeah.
clock out.
Yeah, I mean, that was and they got exposed badly towards that. They allowed 75 points in their last 2 games.
Their defense
Um,
plays like a team that has drafted nothing but skill positions like the last 4 years.
yes.
So
But I want to see Drake London. I want to see how he looks with, a much better quarterback.
an
Kyle
NFL
Pitts is
quarterback.
injured again, so we don't know if he's even going to play on
Who's
Sunday.
injured?
Kyle Pitts.
Of course.
Yeah, he's questionable. So
I think
that's a big surprise.
Kyle Pitts too, like a lot. I think a lot of people are still projecting that he's like the guy that came out of Florida, but at some point when you have enough injuries, like he's never going to be the same talent that he was.
It usually takes until the first year on the second team that teams start to be like, yeah, like he'll get some, he'll get a big free agent offer this year just because of he might even ball out because it's his contract year. Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't pick up his option, right?
Yeah. And he's the guy that I think, I don't think his option's up yet. He was 21.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's 22. I was thinking
he's still only in his
third year.
This is his 4th season. So I guess they had to pick up his option.
Yes, they would have. Yeah. Right.
I think they did.
Yes, that's right. I'm all confused in my years right now. It's 2024. He was drafted in 2021. Yeah. So I'm assuming they didn't because we would have heard by now that they did.
We'll have to look that up too.
Yeah, we'll have to look it up. But and if people tell us we're wrong, I could care less, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. To me, Atlanta is just going to be.
They haven't won in that new dome yet. It's not even new anymore.
Yeah,
they've broken that thing in. They've probably replaced all the things that they built or put into that stadium when it was new. They probably already replaced, and they haven't put a new playoff team in it yet.
To be fair, it took them 20 years before they started winning the Georgia Dome too. So because they didn't really win with Deion all that much.
No, and Deion was gone before they built the Georgia Dome.
Yeah, because that was in the 90s, and then they didn't really start winning until Matt Ryan got there.
Dan Reeves had a little success.
They did. They got to the Super Bowl. That was a fluky Super Bowl.
That was a very fluky Super Bowl.
And Vic had some flashes, but they weren't a consistently good.
Yeah, they weren't a consistent winner until Ryan got there. You're right.
Until Matt Ryan got there, and then it was really 2012 and it was 2012, 2013. They went to back. I think it was 2011 and 2012. They went to back-to-back playoff seasons, or 2010, 2011, 2012.
Yes.
They had back-to-back playoff appearances. And that was a big deal for that team because they never done that.
I am looking forward to see what they have in store.
Yep.
I think it's an intriguing game. Probably so much like you find Carolina, New Orleans intriguing. I find this game intriguing to myself.
Yeah. I mostly just don't think no matter what happens, I don't think we leave this game.
Yeah, we don't learn anything from it, but it's just another bookmark in this league.
I'll be more interested in this game if Penix had to come in, then we learn something. And because if the Steelers win this game, I still don't think the future is solved because Russell Wilson
they're not going to win in a way. If the Steelers do win, they're not going to win in a way that you're going to be like, oh my God, they might actually, because it's going to be probably the Kenny Pickett games, where they do something because Russ could still have a little bit of his magic left, and he might look terrible for 3 quarters, and then he does something in the 4th or whatever.
Yeah, and the only thing is does Russ find some of that Seattle magic that he's had? But I think physically Russell has deteriorated the last couple of seasons, and that's really hurt him. But we'll see. We'll see. To me, this game is not as interesting as some of the other ones, but I'll be curious to see how the offense for Atlanta looks, I guess. But I'm taking Pittsburgh. You're taking the Falcons to win this game. Moving on,
pretty interesting.
Yeah. Moving on to probably my favorite matchup of the day.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, Miami.
At least in the early slate.
Yeah. Because I think to me, I mean, Jacksonville didn't make the playoffs, but like they were a de facto playoff team really the whole year until they got knocked out the last week.
Yep.
And Miami is a team that starts incredibly fast every year since Mike McDaniel's gotten there, the first 2 years. I think what I'm interested in is like I just want to watch the offense, right? I just want to watch. Is Miami going to be as explosive as they have been in years past? I want to see who's getting the bulk of the carries at the running backs position specifically, because Achane was like 7 yards per carry last year, which is just crazy. Like, is he going to get more of a role? How are they going to use him and his speed? Tyreek Hill, I think we know what he is. We expect big things from him and Waddle. I think really the big thing about this game, though, to me, is Trevor Lawrence and how does he look? He's healthy. I think the Jags I think the Calvin Ridley experiment was a complete failure. I think they used him wrong. I think this offensive weapon group that he's got now are a lot more tailor-made to what he's good at. I think what I'm kind of looking for is this is an opportunity for Trevor Lawrence to make a statement. It's going to be really hard because this is not an easy place to play in September. Because of, the elements that you have to play in South Florida in early September is just, it gets so hot there. I'm going to take Miami, and this is going to be the highest scoring game of the day.
I agree.
I'm going to take Miami 38-34.
And we're very close. I was going to take Miami 38-35.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those who has the ball last games.
Yeah.
No, I actually wish this game. We even said it the other day. This should be the Nance Romo game.
Yeah, it should be. Because they're sending Nance and Roma to Vegas, right?
To Vegas, yeah. It's going to be Kevin Harlan, who's a great announcer, and Trent Green.
Yeah, that's actually for this game specifically. That might be even better.
That might be even more fun.
Kevin Harlan calling big plays is always great.
Yes. No, I think it's going to be. I'm really excited to see Trevor because I think he wants to prove something. Especially after getting paid. And I think he is. We talked during our previews that there's things I love Trevor, but there's things I don't like about the Jaguars. I think, week 1 is one of those, just I said, it's one of those crazy weeks. Weird things happen. I think guys that might, I might not like, or things that I might not like about the team, like the offensive line, for example. Yep. They might not be the issue on Sunday or something, because it might just be like a different, which 30 years, I guess, to the 30th anniversary of the Bledsoe Marino week 1 game.
Yep.
I have a feeling it might be something like that.
Yeah. With Trevor Lawrence too, I just want to bring this up, like plus 3,000 pretty much across every sports book to win MVP. I think this, like, part of me is like, he's got all the talent. I think he's got all the ability. It's like if Jacksonville just unlocks him and he stays healthy, I could see like this weird scenario. They have a great season where he like is the MVP of the league. And I mentioned that on the team preview. So I'm fascinated, like just like you, to kind of see where he's at. Nonetheless, I'm gonna take Miami to win this game. They're just unbeatable down there early in the season.
Yeah.
Is that all the 1 o'clock games? I believe no. There's one more. It's actually another great one. The number 2 overall pick of the 23 draft, and
I think that's a 325.
It says 1 o'clock on here.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you on my ESPN? It says 325. Washington, Tampa.
No, I'm on Houston.
When you said number 2 overall pick,
I said number 2 versus. I was going to say number 4,
and then
overall pick from the 23 draft.
My bad.
Houston at Indianapolis. A rematch of, I guess, the Week 18 AFC South showdown, or what became the AFC South showdown. Different quarterback though. Gardner Minshew's gone. I'll say this: I think Houston should win this game, and I actually think they should have more heavier, a bigger favorite than what they are. I just think Houston's pretty much better at every position on the field. I'm not a big Anthony Richardson fan. I'm not convinced. I don't think Indianapolis is that good.
No.
I don't know what to make of him though, and he's super athletic, and maybe he can make some freak plays. I just think CJ Stroud and that offense are going to be too good. I think Houston wins convincingly. I'm going to go 30-20 in this game.
Stop stealing what I'm already about to say. All right. I swear to God, I was going to say 30-20.
It's like, we're not even like, the funny thing is like, it's Houston -2.
I know.
So I wasn't even like just going. I wasn't even going chalk. I was kind of like going out there that Houston wins by 10 points. Like that's not the common thing. And then you were like, "That's awesome." Yeah, I don't think Indy's that good.
I don't think Indianapolis will fare very well. I think, like yourself, we talked about this during their preview. For some reason, Anthony Richardson was kind of heralded after his, it's like kind of one of those like recency bias things that like people forget what was going on like when he was playing. I know he had some flashes, but in terms of consistent quarterback play, winning from the pocket, Anthony Richardson, just don't see it.
No.
I'll switch up my score then. I'll take Houston 28-17.
Okay. So you're going to go 11 now. Okay.
Yeah, so 1 point more. They're going to blow them out compared to you.
There you go. Well, we'll move on from that game. We're finally in the late window here. Raiders Chargers. I mean, I think I don't think this is that interesting of a game on paper.
Yeah.
The number one thing I'm going to watch for is the Raiders and how disciplined they are, because I don't get a lot of like with Antonio Pierce.
The Raiders are going to revert back to their old ways.
he talks like that, but I'll give Antonio Pierce a little bit of credit. They did play really hard for him.
They did play hard.
I just don't like. I think this is going to be like, what is the difference in quality of coaching? Because I think you're going to have like one of the league's best coaches on the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh.
It's really still a rookie head coach
against a rookie head coach. I actually, like I said, to defend Antonio Pierce, his players buy into his leadership. I'll give him that. But this is going to be like a team discipline, like coaching clinic that I think Harbaugh puts on. I think the Chargers, like they're only getting 3 here. They got the better quarterback, the better coach. They're at home. This should be a 14-point game. I'm going 24-10.
Okay. We weren't as close this time.
Okay. Hey.
I'm going to take the Chargers 23-13.
Okay. But still, we were both like, it's a 3-point spread, and we're both taking a 10-point.
Yeah, no, I think the Chargers offense is going to play slow. I think there's going to be things like in the red zone, they're probably going to still be working out some things. So maybe some good drives end in field goals. But I think for the most part, I think they're going to control the ball for 35 to 40 minutes. And they're going to play really sound football. They're not going to turn it over. I think they'll probably turn over the Raiders. And also, don't forget, for the Chargers, there is a piece of them that probably wants some revenge for the humiliation that the Raiders put on them in December.
Yeah.
When they put 63 points on them. So I would say like the likes of like a Khalil Mack, a Bosa, those kind of guys, they're not going to forget that. And I think they're going to play hard. I think I have a feeling Khalil Mack is going to have a big game.
Yeah.
And it's his former team as well. He loves playing the Raiders.
Yep. On the Raiders side too, what I am excited to watch, if there's one player, I'm curious to see how they use Brock Bowers, arguably the greatest tight end in the history of college football. I think he's going to be a stud pretty much day one. I'm curious to see how much he is implemented into their offense early on. But Gardner Minshew's still their quarterback, and I think Jim Harbaugh teams, like, I don't buy it, and like he's going to have this team well coached defensively. It's going to be one of those games where it feels like they're suffocating the Raiders, and then they're not winning. Like, it doesn't feel like they're winning by 14, but then you like look up at the end of the game. It's like, think what the 49ers like look like when they had Colin Kaepernick, Frank Gore, and like that's how they won games. And I think the same thing's going to happen.
Were they actually similar to Michigan? Like Michigan played like that. Like Michigan, there was a stat last year that Michigan in the third quarter had they certainly did. Had the by far the highest point differential of any team in the country in the third quarter, because the first half was just kind of like a slow trawl, and then the second half came and they just wore you down and scored. Don't think that happens just yet, but I know what you're talking about. That same kind of philosophy.
Yeah, I think the way Harbaugh won in the NFL, because it's so much harder to wear down an NFL team than it is a college football team. But the way I remember a lot of his games would go is like he's up a touchdown to 4 points at the end of the third quarter, but his team's physicality made the difference in the fourth quarter, and then they would turn it into a 10, 14-point game. Yeah. But yeah, we're both taking the Chargers there. This game, Denver, Seattle. Who would have thought 2 years ago, by the way, because this was the opening game just 2 years ago on Monday Night Football, Broncos Seahawks, where it was the Russell Wilson Bowl, and he's not even in Denver anymore. He's in Pittsburgh. Who would have thought Geno Smith would have outlasted Russell Wilson? Like going into that game, I remember Denver's got the huge edge at quarterback. Myself included, I thought that, and the opposite happened. And I think the big key takeaway, Seattle's the favorite. I think Denver's going to surprise people. I don't think Seattle's all that great, but they have some talent, and they're at home. So I think this will be a razor thin game. So I'm going to take Seattle to win, but I'm going to give them a point. I'm going to say 21-20, and I think the story of the game is how poised Bo Nix looks as a rookie quarterback and over expectation. Because if you think about like the rookies, we expect a lot from Caleb and Jaden Daniels. So I think it's almost assumed that they're going to be pretty productive at the start. I think Bo Nix is going to come out and play pretty well. Now, he's not going to play well enough to overcome the talent gap between the Broncos and the Seahawks, and I think the Seahawks win 21-20 at home. And it'll be like the classic Seahawk win where they're down a touchdown.
They go 80 yards
on the last drive of the game. DK Metcalf scores a 40-yard touchdown and they win. So,
I'm actually going to go with the Broncos.
Oh, well, you're bigger on the Broncos than I am.
Yes. Yeah, I know. But I'm really low on the Seahawks. I guess I'm kind of low on both teams.
Yeah,
but
this shouldn't be a team of Super Bowl contenders.
No.
That's the 405 game.
I am going to say that the Broncos are going to win 20-17. I think they're going to kick a field goal as time expires. They're going to make up for what they should have done 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was such a disaster.
Yes. Yeah. But no, I think
coaching is a huge difference too. Sean Payton's like, we don't really know much about
what Mike McDonald's going to bring to the table yet.
Yeah, we don't know. There's a lot to be interested in this.
I don't think it's going to be a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I
am curious to see Seattle's approach offensively with with Grubb as offensive coordinator. Are they going to air it out? We never really saw them do it that much with Pete Carroll and his philosophy as a coach. And they had guys like Schottenheimer calling plays, like they were run. how are they going to utilize their weapons? They got, they have a first round receiver that they didn't even play all that much. Like JSN, he wasn't even a full-time player. He played slot basically exclusively. Like, how are they going to implement him? Are they going to be more of a downfield passing attack like Grubb ran at Washington? I'll be curious to kind of see that. But I agree with you. I think the biggest takeaway I think people will take from this game is that I think people forgot Sean Payton's still a good coach, and he had them overachieve last year. And you said it yourself, like they weren't a good team last year, but like they found themselves in playoff contention at the end of the year. And I think Sean Payton had a lot to do with that. This team's not talented either, and I don't think they're going to be a playoff contender. If maybe they sneak in as a 7 seed if they got lucky or something, but I don't see. But I think they could win this game. I don't think that's a crazy possibility. But I'm still taking Seattle. You're taking the Broncos. Any other thoughts on this game?
No.
Okay. Now we're getting to the interesting late games. Dallas and the Browns.
The first time they've met in week 1 since like 1966.
No, that's not true. They met in 2008.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Why are we doing this?
Right? Yeah, I'm seeing that.
Are you seeing you're not looking at my
No, I'm looking at your screen right now.
Yeah, and it like keeps redirecting to like a charter ad.
I'm getting Xfinity. Do you have Spectrum internet?
Yeah.
so I have Xfinity internet. I hate Xfinity. If Xfinity is watching, I hope you understand.
But like I'm getting run up with pop-up ads.
Oh yeah, same as.
Yeah, so it's not okay. It's not just me then. But
yes, no.
It's very annoying. I lost my place now. I gotta go find.
So yeah, you're right. The Browns did play the Cowboys in 2008, but I thought somebody said that on. Well, I guess Twitter is not always right. How do you see this playing out? Cleveland's a 1-point favorite. This is Tom Brady's first game from the booth.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, Tom Brady's first game from the booth. I believe that's actually one of the more interesting things to watch because he had no preseason reps in the booth, which I thought was bizarre.
Yeah, they had Adam Amin and Mark Sanchez do the.
Yeah, and I'm like, you mean to tell me he's just gonna go on live TV for the very first time and like he'd never done it before? Like, that's kind of crazy. Like I wouldn't have done that, but and I work in TV and what do I know?
Why didn't he come on our show first?
Yeah. Granted, like I work in local TV versus
Tom you're more than welcome.
Yeah, Tom Brady's not that famous or anything, but it's still it's bizarre that you put somebody in front of how many million viewers?
Yeah,
and
poor Greg Olsen, man. He got the shaft.
Did you see the clip too of Colin Cowherd had a segment with him and like had to just cut him off because it's like we got to go to break, dude. Like he basically like Tom finished a sentence and was about to start talking again, and like Colin's like, "And we're heading off. This is the herd."
Oh no, I didn't see. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I'll find it.
That's
it was
awkward.
from an awful announcer, but it's like that's part of TV. Like you go to break and like you just got to finish your thought and go. And I don't know that I'll be curious to watch that, but that's not really that important. In this game, I think Cleveland is one of the best teams, like roster wise in the NFL. I think this game's all about Deshaun Watson. If he plays well, Cleveland wins. If he plays like he did last year, I think Dallas wins.
Yeah.
I think we know what Dallas is. I think Dallas will come in. This is going to be a challenge for them because this is one of the best defenses they'll play all season. And every time Dallas plays a semi-decent defense, it seems like they crumble. But like I said, I think this game to me, what Deshaun Watson are we getting?
Mm-hmm.
So that's I'll be watching this game. Obviously, these are two teams that I think should be playoff contenders. But give me I'm going to take the Browns. I just don't buy the Cowboys winning a game like this. Give me the Browns 27-20.
All right, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win this one. Same winning score of 27, but I think it's going to be 27-24. I don't know. I think Watson is going to that Dallas defense, if it can do anything. I know it'll be interesting to see how they play without Dan Quinn. But I'm assuming their philosophies are going to be remaining the same in terms of that is a ball hawking defense.
Yeah.
And one thing Deshaun Watson can do for you is give you the ball. Or at least he has been that way the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. I think that is probably what's going to happen. I think he's going to probably give a few short fields to Dak and the Cowboys offense.
Yep.
Am interested to see how the Cowboys offense looks. Their running game is still going to be a major issue, and very little depth behind CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver. But I think, like I said, a few short fields will make their offense look a little bit better than maybe they actually play.
Yeah, I do think that Deshaun Watson, like, what was interesting to me is, like, if you look at his game log from last year, he started to show signs of progress. Like, he had a really good game against Arizona in week 9. And he actually played it kind of respectable, I thought, against Baltimore. And and he won the game 33-31.
Yeah, he threw like 3 touchdowns, I think, that game.
He turned the ball over one time. And I think that's one thing we always have to watch with Deshaun. He only threw 1 touchdown in that Baltimore game. But the thing is, he did have, he had over 200 yards. But I think the key thing is the Browns were functioning offensively, and they won in a hostile environment. He was showing some signs of, I don't think he'll ever get back to where he was like 2020, right? But no. I also don't think the Browns need to have 2020 Deshaun Watson to be a really good team and be a playoff team at home. I think he's got to be like, can he be what Joe Flacco was last year? I think they can beat the Cowboys like that. But like you said, I agree 100%. Dallas wins this game if Deshaun Watson goes out there and throws like 2 picks and gives Dak a short field. The other talking point is, how does Dallas do with this front? How does Dallas do with this secondary?
Yeah.
Because every time I feel like they get tested, they melt.
Mm-hmm.
They're awesome at beating up bad teams. They did it last year. This is not a bad team. I don't care who the quarterback is. Like, the rest of this roster is awesome. And it's a well-built team. They're deep, pretty much every position I can think of. This, to me, it's still, I don't even care. I'm still going to take the Browns in that situation. But so you have Cowboys, I have Cleveland. So that we differ on that one too. So, any other thoughts on this game?
No. Hopefully by the time I'm watching it, the Bears are 1-0, and I'm not like, I don't want to watch football anymore. Yeah. I'm done with this sport.
Yeah. We got Commanders, Bucks. I think I'll keep this one pretty brief. I'm going to take Tampa here. I think they're the better team. I think they're at home. Really hard place to play in September. And I like the continuity from Tampa. I think they still have the same pieces in place. They did invest in the draft on the offensive line. I'm curious to see how the running game looks, because I don't think the running game was all that great last year, even though I think Rachaad White has some talent. They did lose Devin White defensively, but it's a Todd Bowles coach team. I think they're going to be good. The key thing to watch. I'll go ahead and give you my score in this game. I'm gonna take Tampa 24-20 over the Commanders. Is that what you had?
No.
Okay. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, the only reason I'm going to watch this game is to see how Jaden Daniels looks. Yeah. I think but I feel like the Buccaneers, I feel pretty confident they should win this game.
Yeah, I'm not at all interested by Tampa in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
or Washington, really, outside of Jaden
or
Daniels.
Washington, really. Tampa's been the exact same team the last 3 years, 2 years at least.
Yep.
I imagine they're going to look pretty much the same again this year. I think they definitely have more talent right now than Washington, but I am interested to see Jaden Daniels. How does he now for him, thankfully for him, this is not a Tampa defense that was able to rush the quarterback very well last year.
Yeah.
And he has struggled at taking sacks. I think he's going to get a game where he's maybe not going to be under duress unless Todd Bowles stirs
That's what
up
I'm
some
thinking,
stuff.
though.
You know, I'm going to take Tampa 23-17.
Okay. So we're pretty close on that.
Pretty close. Yeah. I think there'll be a couple flash plays from Jaden Daniels, but I think all the much more veteran, experienced team, and not in a bad way, a team that has won before. I think they'll probably edge this one out.
Yeah. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, have the Rams and the Detroit Lions, a rematch of the NFC wildcard game. A really great game, honestly.
Kelly Stafford returns to Detroit.
Is it the Kelly Stafford Bowl?
It's the Kelly Stafford Bowl. It's not even the Matt Stafford Bowl.
It's about her. It's not about Matt. But anyway, I think this game is, I would say, my favorite game of the whole week.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I think the Rams are a team I'm very high on. I think they have a great chance at I think I had them as the 1 seed, I believe.
You did.
In our projections. And I'm also pretty high on Detroit. I think they have a really good roster. I like Dan Campbell as a coach. I do not like their team. I do not, enjoy them winning games, but they're really good. I have to give them credit.
They just happen to do it more often now than they ever did before.
Unfortunately. And I'll go ahead and give my prediction here. I think the Rams are going to upset them. I think the Rams are going to beat them this time. I think the Rams should have had them in January. I think they get them this time.
That would be great, just to see if there's any sense of doubt that creeps into the Lions' head.
My prediction is Cooper Kupp reminds everybody how good he was.
Oh,
I think
awesome. That's a great prediction.
I think Cooper
Kupp, him on your daily fantasy lineups, guys.
Cooper Kupp. I'm calling my shot. I'm Babe Ruth at Wrigley Field. 140 and 2 tutties. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I think he has that kind of game. I think McVay is going to have a master class, but I also think the Rams defense can be taken advantage of. I also think the Lions have a huge game offensively. I think this is going to be a score fest. 35-31 Rams upset the Lions. Lions still look great. I think are going to have a really good season, but I'm taking the Rams here on the road.
So I'm going to take the Lions at home, and I have this awful feeling that they're going to look really good doing it. I think it's going to be high scoring. So I think I think we're still going to be I don't know about that defense, but I just have this sinking feeling that offense is going to look really good.
Yeah.
And I think LA, without their first game, without Aaron Donald, I think there's going to be some things that they're still trying to figure out.
Yep.
We talked when we did the Rams preview, the beginning of the season is going to be really important for them because they play the likes of the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers all within the first 5 weeks of the year. These are two of those teams they might be competing for a wild card spot against.
Yeah.
These are big games to get tiebreakers. I think the Lions are going to win this one 38-27.
Yeah. Oh, so you're really high on the Lions offense at that point.
Yes. I think the Lions offense is going to explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think big game for David Montgomery.
To me, this game comes down to Stafford. Not Kelly, but Matt. And I think, but I'll say it. I think the whole season comes down to Stafford staying healthy and productive. but what drives this team is going to be their offense. But the way I look at it is like McVay and a healthy Rams core of skill players and an improved offensive line. No one really likes to talk about that, but like they were a lot better last year than people thought. Like from 2022, where they really struggled, like they rebounded really nicely last year as a unit. I think there's a lot to like about this team, assuming Stafford doesn't have like tennis elbow or something.
Which he has had before.
This game to me is gonna. I go either way, and I'm gonna just shoot my shot here, like I said, and go Rams. But I would not be shocked if Detroit does exactly what you said. I'm high on both teams. I think both teams, like I said, I think I had both of them winning their divisions, so I'm not low on either one. So Tori can be happy with me on that one. Our friend Tori, that is friend of the show and designed our logo, actually. Monday night. Any other thoughts on that Rams-Lions game before we move on to Monday night?
Nope.
So last game, we're at the end of the marathon. Jets 49ers.
Our longest episode in a while, which is actually pretty good.
I'm having a blast though. So
yeah, I'm enjoying it because I just can't wait.
Well, it's making me like think about all these matchups, like, and just kind of.
Well, that's a good thing. We're not thinking of hypotheticals anymore. Like we're thinking of the Rams against the entire NFL, where they stand. Like we're literally thinking about the Rams against the Lions.
Yep. Jets 49ers.
Now this is actually a game I'm very excited for. Like this, I think the game outside of the Bears, outside of maybe tomorrow night, the game I'm most excited for. We got robbed last year. We got robbed.
Yeah. I think we all know what we're watching this game for. Can we see Aaron Rodgers throw a pass?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Leonard Floyd to tear his Achilles.
Wow.
I'm joking.
No,
I would never.
We don't wish that.
I would never.
No.
Honestly, I would never. But no.
We're watching this game because we want to see how Juwan Jennings plays for the 49ers. I'm just kidding. No, we're watching
Malachi Corley
because we want to see Malachi Corley in the slot. No, we're watching this game because Aaron Rodgers is back. It's been a few years, but he did at one point in his late 30s. He won back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah,
and the last couple of years, one in 2022 where he was just not great. He was fine. He just wasn't great. And then in 2023, he just didn't play because he had the ruptured Achilles. He's been out of the darkness. He's been traded since. So he had a lot of things change since those MVP seasons. This is going to be the hardest game. Because everything on paper, when you put Rodgers into the lineup, this team should be pretty good. Like their defense is solid. Their special teams are pretty good. They've built a decent offensive line. They got good skill players. Rodgers is the missing piece, but you and I are always against the missing piece, like argument for teams, right? It's like they're just a quarterback away. How many times have we heard that? And it's just not the case. And that being said, though, I think the 49ers are a little susceptible here. I think if a team is going to get them early in the year,
kind of a busy offseason in a bad way for them.
And I think the Jets make this a close game. I think this is going to be one of those Aaron Rodgers signature games where he leads them down the field in the fourth quarter and steals a win for the Jets. I'm actually going to pick the Jets in this game.
I'm picking the Jets too.
I just get this gut feeling that they're going to beat them.
What's the score going to be?
I'm going to take
26-24.
I'm taking 20. Yeah. Wow. You actually took the score.
How many times have we done that tonight? How many times have we done that tonight? That's like the fourth time.
I'm going to do 20. I'll do 23-21. And I think it's going to be like where they score a late touchdown, like
with a minute left, giving him
like
time.
a broken coverage touchdown.
Sauce Gardner falls on his face.
You know, the interesting thing too is like this is like the first times in a long times with Kyle Shanahan where I think there's actual questions, you know, because I think they had Steve Wilkes last year and he's not back, right? So, you know, they have some change in their defensive coaching staff. Is it what's his face? Is the guy from the Chargers? Is Brandon Staley, I think, is the defensive coordinator
Yes,
now?
he is. Yes, he
So
is.
and see, like that tells me a lot too. Like like the way I see this game unfolding is like some broken play happens in the fourth quarter and the Jets like get a fluky win. Like the 49ers outplay them. I'll say like I think I think the Jets can hold the 49ers in check too defensively. I think this is a very talented unit. I think I just see a vintage Rodgers moment happening. That's the only that's not good analysis, but that's just the way I see this game unfolding.
I do too. Like I said, I think it's going to be like a late drive, a game-winning field goal from Greg the Leg.
When we watch like NFL top 10 in like 20 years, like this will be a game.
This will be one of the games.
Like, oh, I remember where I was when he made that, you know, that 4th and 8 to Malachi Corley. Like,
this is what I'm thinking of though when I'm thinking about this game. The funny thing is, if the Jets do win in the way that we're talking about, like ESPN First Take, Mike Greenberg, all those Jets fans that are on ESPN, Tuesday morning next week will be screaming, "We're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to win the Super Bowl this year."
And if they beat the 49ers, by the way,
they're going to be going nuts. But I do have to say this, even though
they have the Titans week 2, Patriots week 3.
Oh, it sets up for them.
Broncos week 4. Vikings week 5. They could be 5-0 going into going in a game where they host Buffalo.
They play 4 home games in a row.
Yeah, they start out on the road twice, and then they play 4 straight home games.
Wow.
No, one of those it looks like is in London.
Oh,
yeah. So they have a London game in the middle of that against the Vikings.
We both think Rodgers is going to do something crazy. They're going to go nuts the next day. However, this thought has crossed my mind. If the 49ers do say win and their defense looks like the 49ers defense does, what's the talk going to be about Aaron Rodgers? We're not even talking about the 49ers. There's not really much to talk about the 49ers, and I don't actually care to talk about the 49ers. What's the talk about Aaron Rodgers going to be after that? Is there going to be some like, oh my God, has he hit the wall?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair question because then you can have the conversation that he has not been elite in 3 years.
Yeah,
and he's 40 years old,
and he's coming off an Achilles injury.
You know, that's great. That is a great question, and yeah, I think that's one of the more interesting. Like this, just like the Panthers, the Jets, not as negative.
It's a different level of, but similar.
But the narrative around their entire team will be set by how they come out and look on Monday night. Such a huge game for the Jets because like they missed out on last year with Rodgers. This is kind of it. Like they have this season that this is really all you can count on for him. If you get anything past this year, that's gravy. But like you're already kind of on borrowed time. With him, like, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm pretty nervous.
Oh my God!
You know, but something in my gut tells me that he's going to have like a vintage moment. And
because I can just see, like I said, the next day, everyone going nuts.
Yeah,
it just seems like I know people think like, oh, everybody always talks about the Jets, and yes, they do, but nobody's talked about the Jets in like the light of, oh my God, they're actually good in a long time.
Yeah, with Rex Ryan was like the last time.
Rex Ryan, yes. So
and they still didn't have good quarterback play at that point.
No. So this would be way different if it happens like that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. But with that, we're going to sign off. This was our week 1 preview. We will be back next Wednesday night. We'll cover the best 3 games that we saw from the weekend, and then we'll cover week 2 going into the week 2 games. So with that, we're signing off. Good luck.
Enjoy week 1, everybody. Good luck to your teams.
And when the what was our big bet that we were gonna make? Oh, the Cooper Cup. When the Cooper Cup.
Oh yes, yeah,
hits,
your daily fantasy, yeah. And don't forget about your Trevor Lawrence 30-1 tickets.
Yeah, so
MVP.
When I do the Cooper Cup and the Trevor Lawrence bets, I'll be doing the show from my yacht next week.
And your Bears 35-1 Super Bowl tickets.
Yeah. Oh wow. Then we could just get to what could we buy? Maybe a private jet?
By the Bears.
That's